So here's another area that is typically very hard that marketing has to think a lot about long-term focus as well as short-term pipeline attainment. Typically, the sales team is going to be more focused on short-term because there's like a quota, right? When we go into the board meetings, usually it's all about, hey, what does this quarter look like? What's next quarter looking like? It's not, hey, Bettina, how's that long-term brand building process going? And building trust with our customers. Tell us about that, right? It's important, we know it, even if we're not being really held accountable to it. How did you bridge that gap internally? The last thing I'll say here is I had on about a year and a half ago a CMO, three-time CMO as well, and she said, the way that I think about it is that today's brand is tomorrow's demand. You can't have the demand short-term today if you're not seeding the demand and building the awareness and the trust in the marketplace. How do you think about the bridging the two long-term, short-term objectives, and how do you do it in a way that everybody buys in internally?
Yeah, that's a big one. And I think, as you say, it's a challenge for any CMO. But again, taking outset in the customer voice, understanding that 2 years ago, it wasn't super clear who we were and who we were for. And why should our ICP look to us first? Why should we be on their day one list, for example? But understanding and knowing that, and then going on to clarify and strengthen the positioning, strengthen our own narrative, and also uniting around one common story that not only marketing tells, but everyone in the company tells. We're not telling 100 different stories, but that's the theoretical work. And then you need to put it to life. And I think finding or striking that balance between capturing demand and generating the demand with brand is tricky. And I also think it shifts. It's not a constant, but what I've found that has been useful, one thing is to clarify the positioning and the brand and the narrative and everything, but also finding ways to experiment, because you might have a hypothesis. And if you're asking for X million dollars to test it in a small SMB, small SaaS company, for example, it's not an immediate yes. But then finding some ways where you could, okay, we could experiment with this and we need to do it over time to see if we can get some indications if we're on the right track. And we did that. We chose one of our core markets here in Europe. We singled them out, worked really closely with the country management and the sales teams. And we said, hey, if we want to become more known to the ICP in this market, and we have X budget to test it, we have some KPIs that can tell us and indications, and we need to figure out exactly which audience that we want to be on the day one list on tomorrow and in the months and in the years to come. We did that, and after we ended the experiment, and it's brand, so it's still going on, but after we had set, okay, after X time we will evaluate, the results were through the roof. They were mind-blowing. I was like, okay, this is crazy, because from a brand awareness and top of mind point of view, it's not necessarily translating into pipeline right away. But in addition to exceeding the brand KPIs that we had set, we could see like immediate correlation also on pipeline generation from the channels we were running this experiment in. So that told us that, okay, not only are we more visible and more top of mind to the target audience that we want to be in front of, but we have now effectively also increased our pool of companies that we can capture demand from. And that's the thing, balancing that creation of the pool of audience and then efficiently capturing it is so important. And then showing that experiment with the results to the organization, to the board, to the management team, the conversation is much different than saying, I believe we should invest in brand because I know it's important and it does take time, etc. But that was great learnings to have a very fruitful conversation around the next steps.